Hi everyone, and welcome to a brand new edition of Adda with Aavishkaar Capital. I'm Sudhanshu Dikshit, and I'm thrilled to have you all be a part of our latest season, where we give the audience a ringside view of the companies Aavishkaar Capital has invested in, their dynamic founders, and what have been some of their biggest successes and learnings in their journey of entrepreneurship. So, joining us today on episode one of this brand new season is Electronica Finance, one of India's leading NBFCs, providing diverse financing solutions to MSMEs, powering India's unprecedented economic growth. We have with us their MD and CEO, Shilpa Pophale. Welcome, ma'am. And driving this conversation with her will be someone who's been working very closely with Shilpa ma'am and her team, our Associate Director at Aavishkaar Capital, Angela Sebastian. Angela, over to you.
Thanks, Sudhanshu. Shilpa ma'am, thank you so much for joining us today as we delve into your journey with Electronica and have a small chat about strategy, challenges, maybe a little bit of nostalgia that we hope will inspire other founders who are looking to build lasting institutions of their own. So we can kick things off with a short rewind. Now, you've been with EFL for a couple of decades and you've been leading it as CEO from 2003. But I'm curious to know, what was your light bulb moment where you decided that this is the space? MSME financing doesn't sound very fancy, but this is the space that you want to build your path in.
So thanks, Angela. Thanks, Sudhanshu. It's a pleasure to be with you and to take this journey with you. Frankly, it was from my side, it was not a really very conscious decision to get involved in the finance business as such, because my background was science. Means I'm a science graduate, and I've worked in biology sector for some time, for a very short time, I'll say. But I joined EFL as a management trainee. And that was a decision when I was very young, basically because all other businesses were into engineering. And I didn't have an engineering background. So I thought, let me just understand something about finance. As I started working in finance, we were really a startup at that time. EFL was just starting out and we were getting our hands into anything and everything. So right from, say, working capital finance to car finance in those days, anything and everything. And it was great fun to experiment with so many different areas of financing. So, and once I started working, I think it just grew on me. I have never thought about working into any other area but financing, and especially MSME financing. So, and the way it got developed and the way we started working closely with our customers, with the manufacturers whose machines we used to fund in those days, we thought it is a real great opportunity. Especially in those days, banks were not really eager to support small MSME customers into manufacturing segment. And banks never understood these equipments as separate assets which can be funded. So when we looked at the MSMEs who were struggling, they were our group companies customers. They were wanting to buy machines and all. But when we looked at those and we thought that there is absolutely no one who is going to support these customers. So it was actually a genuine pleasure when you work with your customers and you really, they are very grateful to you in a way that they will say that in those days you funded us, you supported us. Now we have grown to this extent, but otherwise we wouldn't have done what we have done in business. So I think that there are multiple fulfilling moments and which I've seen throughout. Means I've worked as frontline sales executive also in those days in one of the branches. It was a great experience. So I think it just happened that I kept on working in EFL and I've had a great fun for at least last 25 years.
Understood. No, that sounds like it was the right match that happened. And, a lot of people assume that, being a second generation promoter is easy. right? So I just wanted to hear from you, what has your experience been like? What is, maybe one good thing and one bad thing about being in that situation?
Being a second generation entrepreneur, so my father had started this business. He was a great visionary. It was really an honor to learn directly from him. So I think the second generation entrepreneur actually gets that unique opportunity to be really closely working with the founder and understand the business nuances directly from him. That was a great advantage, and that was number one benefit which I think I had, and I could do that for a very long time because I was able to work with my father for almost 20-25 years, and that was a great honor. And I could learn all the business nuances, all the and especially if you share that passion with the first generation entrepreneur, and that helps you into building the business to the next level. That is the greatest thing, and that opportunity, I'm really fortunate to have that opportunity. The little bit of negative side of that which I can think of is just that people always think that it is very easy for you, but it is not, because when I started working here in EFL, I was very young, especially being a woman. Also, it's a bit of a challenge. People should accept you first as your senior. So you struggle with that. People many times think that you will not work as hard as others. So you have to continuously prove to them that you are up to that level, and you are actually putting in even more efforts than them, so that they will accept you as their boss. So I think that is the only flip side. But otherwise, I've always thought that it's a privilege and it's an honor to work as a second generation in the business, which is cultivated to such an extent by the family.
Understood. And I think, since you highlighted that, being a woman in this field and sort of starting off young was a particularly challenging aspect. I wanted to also understand from you, you've scaled this company now to 4,000 crores. You've built a huge team, right, from field staff to now CXOs, right? So do you have any advice for other women founders who are in the process of creating these teams? What should they keep in mind when they're putting together a team for them?
I think it is as easy or as difficult as it is for anyone else. So being a woman doesn't give you a specific advantage or disadvantage when it comes to building a team. Only thing is, if means I have always practiced that in my career. If you yourself, you are not aware about being slightly different, because I am used to being an only woman in the room. And that is for a very long time, because especially because we work in the manufacturing segment, where as it is women entrepreneurs, women customers are not many. But if you yourself, you are not really obsessed about being different from your team or from your peers, then I don't think it matters. Only thing is that the feel which you should be able to give to whomsoever you are interacting with is you are as professional as anyone else in the room. You are as passionate about the business as anyone else in the room. Then it doesn't really matter. In terms of building the team, there are a few other challenges which are there, of course. And one of the biggest challenge which I have faced as a woman was because you are taking care of your family, also your other responsibilities, also the preference, the importance which maybe other entrepreneurs will give to networking, that you can't do, because you always have other priorities, other responsibilities, and that happens. And that is the only negative which I can think of being in business and in the leadership position especially.
Thanks for that response, Shilpa ma'am. That was very helpful. Now, you mentioned earlier that you've been in the frontline sales team at EFL as well. So you've had, an on-the-ground view of MSMEs for a long time right now. And everybody currently is going gung-ho about MSMEs and how it is poised to become $1 trillion segment on its own. But I'd be interested to hear how you've seen the industry evolve over the last decade. What is unique about Indian MSMEs?
Multiple things actually, and this is a very interesting question because when we started funding specifically manufacturing MSMEs. Those days, MSME was a word which was not even I'll say it was not flavor of the period. It was not really very common to speak about MSMEs. In fact, I have heard this question from multiple like rating agencies or lenders to us that this is a very risky segment in which you operate. And we have always maintained that if you select your customers correctly, if you are working with your customers closely, then this is the safest segment in which you can operate. Because we have always found that our customers are very conscientious. If there is a challenge, there is a problem, many times they will come to you, they will approach you, and they will tell you that this is the problem, can you help me out? Can we develop something, and can you help me in coming out of this situation? So over the years, MSMEs in India also have evolved to a great extent, especially last, I think, maybe 5 or 7 years, MSMEs have taken a very different path. So earlier, MSMEs, we thought they were a bit hesitant about investments in land and building or investments in equipments, new projects. So that situation is changing slowly but surely. Now we find that the MSME entrepreneurs are also quite aggressive. They want to grow their businesses. They want to take their businesses to the next level, and they are not wary of actually investing. They are not wary of taking that step which will take their businesses to the next level, and that is a very encouraging sign. Of course, the changing environment, the business opportunity which we see as a country, because China plus one is major thing, because of which there are so many opportunities. But there are multiple companies which are overseas companies who want to set shop in India, and they are looking at good partnerships. So our MSME entrepreneurs have definitely evolved. Especially, I see that when I interact with second generation MSMEs, they are very passionate, they're very ambitious, and they want to take the business to the next level now. So I think we are poised for a great growth overall. If we talk about MSMEs is a major driver in terms of employment generation, in terms of contribution to the GDP. And I think manufacturing MSMEs for next at least 4 to 5 years, that is the story now to watch for.
And from a policy or from a regulatory perspective, or just broadly from the ecosystem, what are 1, 2 things that you would like to see happen to help push the MSME story even further?
I think there are multiple initiatives which are helping MSMEs right now. Like just the other day, there is a definite push from Government of India, which is directing all the companies to publish, are they paying MSMEs in the required time frame? So that is something, these kind of initiatives definitely help. Otherwise, what happens is, because MSMEs are small, larger players try to take advantage of their vulnerability. So these kind of government initiatives are definitely helping. I think what will help even further is, there used to be some credit linked capital subsidies in the past, which was very substantial, and that was helping the MSMEs when they decided to invest in plant and machinery or bigger assets. So I think such kind of initiatives, if they start again, that will definitely give a boost to the MSME segment, and that will help the MSMEs into take those calls where they want to invest to the substantial level. So those kind of initiatives will definitely help. But otherwise, I think from the government side, there is a good support. From the banks also, there is a substantial support now, because we are funding MSMEs. We also can work with multiple banks where they also want to develop their MSME portfolio. I think those will be definitely helpful.
Understood. And we've spoken about MSMEs, but each company has its own life cycle where they go from startup to MSME to then a large corporate. And navigating this journey can be a bit challenging for a lot of folks. So, and EFL has also gone through that evolution. So what are, some of the conscious changes that you have made as EFL has grown from one stage to the next that you think are important for others to keep in mind as they're scaling the organization?
Yeah. So what I've always thought is in the evolution of any organization, there is a phase where you are kind of working like a startup. You are very swift, agile. You are trying to develop multiple things, and that helps definitely at the initial stage. As the organization matures, what is required is you start managing with data. So if you don't have enough data with you, and if your decisions are still on the basis of maybe I'll not say hearsay, but on the basis of overall feel of the market or feel of the organization, then there is a possibility that those decisions will not hold, those will not be right actually. So I think if you are managing with data, then you can look at the overall business environment, business scenario, and take a feel of what is right for the business at what point in time, what kind of investments are required, because when you are building the organization, uh, substantial investments have to be made in terms of those are into people, into technology, and that has been a conscious effort for us for last at least 5 to 7 years. That has definitely helped us in terms of building the branch network, because we have now 200 odd branches. That is a strong network. From earlier, when we were only into manufacturing segment, the branch network was quite small. Another level of investment is required, which is in terms of people, because as you grow to the next level, you need a very different capability. The people who are with you for a very long time, they sometimes are not able to maybe cope up with the growth. So that time it is very essential that you build your team, and that team will definitely take your organization to the next level. And third and most important aspect of that is technology. There has been a huge substantial effort in terms of building the technology, and technology evolves so fast nowadays that by the time you develop something, maybe you come to know that that is now redundant, that is not going to help you. So that is a continuous endeavor, and I think it's a never ending journey, but it's fascinating also to see things like artificial intelligence coming into picture, which will help you in your decision making also. Multiple other aspects of data analytics, which will help you into analyzing your own customer segment, which will help you in building various other products which can be helpful to your customers. So I think overall all these aspects are required when you are trying to scale that growth, which will take you to the next level.
Right. And, you mentioned that investment into certain areas is an important decision. So I think that's a good segue into my next question for you. Over the years, EFL has expanded into different segments, different geographies. You know, I'd like to pick your brains on how do you think through that process, right? How do you sort of assess what are the risks, challenges that you might face, and then decide to, actually take the plunge?
When we are developing various verticals, the predominant factor into that is we always see what is the risk profile of the segment you are getting into. And we take pride in saying that we are a secured lender. So anything which is unsecured has never been a focus area. We also try to analyze the geography in which we want to enter to the best extent possible. There is a lot of data available now because there are multiple other players who are maybe operating in those same geographies. So we look at their data, their delinquencies, their branch network, their people. Depending on all these factors, we try and decide on should we enter into a new segment, should we enter into a new geography, or any specific product which we want to launch, which can help us in terms of growing our business. And that actually is a very important aspect of we call that as business development, or we call that as strategy. But that has, in a way, that has been in our DNA because we have a manufacturing background. It is in my mind I always think about it as R&D kind of activity, research and development kind of activity, though we are in financial services. But that approach actually helps us. So we can take up multiple projects. We can do quick small pilots into that. We see how is the result, and on that basis we can decide decide how much investment can be put into that. And as I said, that is again a continuous effort. So maybe in a year we will be working on say 4 or 5 different new ideas, new projects, new products even, and then take a decision that which product needs to be focused on or invested into.
Understood. So R&D, even as a financial services company, I think your science background is clearly
that helps a bit, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're expanding like this, obviously what follows is the need for capital. So being a closely held company for a period of time and then deciding to go out and raise institutional capital, what was the thought process behind that? And did you have to do a lot of convincing to sort of move from being a closely held company to opening up to investors?
Here I think I have to give credit to my father, because he was a very open person. He was very open to the ideas, and he was very certain about one thing, that you have to do what is right for your business. It is not only for the investors, it is not only for the promoters, but you should be able to do what is right for the business. So when business grew to such an extent that we definitely thought that capital is going to be required, I didn't have to go and convince anyone, fortunately. And we were quite ready to dilute our shareholding, to bring in new investors. And one thing was always very clear, that bringing in investors is also going to help us in terms of development of the business, because with investors coming in, you get again inputs on various things, because they are operating in a very different environment. They are private to information which we may not be private to because of their exposure. So we were quite open to idea of getting fresh capital. And that has helped definitely, because we were really fortunate to raise our first equity just before COVID. So it was hardly 2 or 3 months before COVID hit. We could close our first fundraise. Otherwise, it would have been a difficult period for us. But we were fortunate enough to do that, and that was a journey which I think was no one questioned on the shareholder side. So that was a positive.
Understood. And, we talk a lot about what investors look for in companies when they're looking to invest. But what is your checklist when it comes to sort of picking the investors to partner with, right? And why do you think, or how did Aavishkaar sort of fit into that?
So we when we meet with the investors, and we did that a lot in our second round, which just got concluded with Aavishkaar's support. Actually, what we look at is also there has to be a meeting of minds. Of course, the impact angle is very important, because we are really into impact space. Let it be energy efficient financing or financial inclusion. All that is part of our DNA, because we have been doing that for a very long time. So the investors, if they come from that background, then there is meeting of minds, and then the DNAs also match. And I think that is most crucial part of it. I think with Aavishkaar coming in, that has definitely happened. With first investment round also, that was the situation, because with the support of our first investor, we have developed rooftop solar financing as a new vertical, and we think that it's a great vertical to operate in, and we think it can grow to a very different level. But I think if that is something which is there with the investor, we are happy working with them. Another request which I always make to prospective investors, I can say, is that there has to be a bit of a patience, because we are in a complex business. We are not in a monoline kind of a financial activity. We have multiple verticals, so complexity of business, considering the size, is definitely very high. So that understanding and patience, that is something which is required. So we always look for patient capital, and a bit of a space in terms of developing the business to the next level. So if that happens, then the meeting of mind happens, and we are happy working with the investors.
Got it. And, now you're a bit of a seasoned fundraiser, having raised 2 equity rounds and, of course, a lot of debt capital as well. What is your advice to founders who are sort of beginning their journey of fundraising?
What I always think is for financial services, it is slightly different from maybe all other businesses. If you're not in financial services, I will definitely tell you that you need not dilute fast, because that is not required many times. If you have your own capital and you can grow the business to a certain level and then go for equity raise, that is helpful. In financial services, it is a bit different because you always need capital. If you are growing at a good pace, then you have to really keep on raising capital. So my only suggestion would be to be patient, not to, because many times what we see with larger startups also, or the startups which are always in discussion, is also they're in a frenzy of capital raise. That may not be required. The focus need not be only on raising capital. Focus has to be on developing your business to such a level that it is growing at a good pace. And when the capital is really required, then there is a point in going and raising equity. That is the only thing I think. And again, as I said earlier, the DNA should match, the thought process of investors should match. Suppose your investor is in a hurry and there is a exit expectation in 3 years or whatever, then it becomes very difficult, because then there is a very different kind of pressure on the business to grow the business, and some negative elements also can then come into business because of that frenzy of growth. So that is not advisable for any business, and if you are building the business on a long term basis, then that is not really helpful. So being patient, a bit patient in terms of capital raise, also helps sometimes.
No, absolutely. And thank you so much for that piece of advice. And I think, we've gone through your evolution, and you mentioned that there are many milestones that you fondly remember at Electronica, but I'm going to have to ask you to narrow down and pick one. What's your sort of favorite memory from your EFL journey so far?
There are multiple memories. I think in the recent years, I think one memory is that for the first time, actually, whatever budgets we had set, we could achieve that, and that never happens actually, because you have multiple businesses. So even if you achieve into one segment, there is maybe one segment which is falling short. So that is one thing where that happened actually last year, when we could achieve whatever budgets we had set. In addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, when you are actually meeting the customers, and especially I would want to mention here a very small customer into our rural segment, where we fund for a micro lab. I met one customer, and that customer was actually having a single unit where there was a residence, there was a business also, there was a small kirana shop in front of that house. There were a few cattle, there was a vegetable garden, and all that was being managed by one customer, one lady. And she told me very frankly that because of your funding, I could put floor to this home, and I've saved a lot of my time because of this. And that is I think one of the moment where you really think that you have made a small difference to someone's life. I think that I can say that is my fond memory. Fantastic customer in Rajasthan, actually.
Got it. No, and I'm sure that's just one of the many customer stories that EFL has powered over the years. So, as we sign off, I wanted to understand, what is your one wish for EFL in the future?
It's a tough question, because there is no one wish as such. What I have always believed in is we have a great potential, and we are at the right place at the right time, because MSMEs are going places. Rural India is growing at a very good pace. What I want to really see EFL is as a name which is very well respected in the financial services market. I think we are, even today, to a small extent, we are respected, and we are identified as a good player into manufacturing segment. But as a financial services player, because financial services is such a large segment, there, to build the business to that extent where it will be name which will be very well respected, I think that is the only wish I have. Nothing else really.
No, and we at Aavishkaar, of course, echo that, and we hope to see you reach that milestone very, very soon. So, once again, thank you so much for joining us for this chat. And thanks, Sudhanshu, for setting this up. Over to you.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you both. Thank you both so much. Thank you so much for what's been an incredibly insightful and candid conversation, more importantly. And it's safe to say, Shilpa ma'am, that you've set a pretty high benchmark for the rest of our founders to follow. Because as we mentioned, this is just episode one in our latest season with Adda. Angela, thank you again once, for putting this together and really helping us to get the most out of this engaging discussion. And most importantly, for really keeping it light yet real. And on that note, it's time to say goodbye. But before we close, remember that this is just episode one of Adda with Aavishkaar Capital. We have plenty more lined up. So stay tuned. Thank you.